basically what you all just heard from Mr. Bagley is a bunch of rubbish. And I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself to the other board members. I'm Leon Fitzgerald, and I work with the Caddo Parish DA's office. I'm the director of the Victim Assistance Program. And I've been here for a long time, and this was actually my case as it was going on. And so I remember it quite well because it was one of the most horrendous, heinous, heartless, worst cases that I've ever seen in my 27 plus years here.
Nothing like a good mic drop from the DA's office, especially when she says programs. We're going to jump into a case and unpack it with all of the details at the end.
Okay, and you're charged with armed robbery. You were sentenced on February the 26th, 2004. You were sentenced to 30 years hard labor, and your parole eligibility date was December the 4th, 2023. We're past that. And your good time release date is going to be June 30th of 2025. So what you're wanting to do is to have a shot through this hearing, a shot at getting paroled earlier than your good time date, which is about a year and a couple of months from now. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't want to rush your decision, but if you have any question about that. Okay, and then something, this is a little bit unusual, Mr. Bagley, and the fact that in my previous life, being the sheriff of Caddo Parish, I don't have to tell you this, but we, the department, the sheriff's office, worked your case. And so in the interest of being fair, which is this board's intent, and it's our charter, that's what we're pledged to do, in the interest of being fair, I'm going to give you an opportunity. If you would like to put off your parole hearing, then that's no problem. That won't be held against you if you choose to have another panel that I'm not on, since I'm so directly involved in the case. I didn't work the case. I don't know a lot of details on the case other than what I've studied last night. But you have that chance. Would you like to put your hearing off, or do you want to have your shot today?
I have my shot today, sir.
Okay. All righty. I've gone over the facts of the matter here, and let me ask you a couple of things. There was somebody that was actually murdered in this, but I understand that you weren't at the scene of the murder. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell me how that. I know you were riding. I don't know this, but I take it from the reports that there were 4 of you together, and you were riding around. Start from the time that y'all started riding around. Tell me what happened.
As I can remember, we was riding around preparing for the holidays, going to a party, and went by my cousin's in my house, and him and his friends got in the car with me, and we was just riding around. And the 2 of them, my cousin and his friend, they was under the influence of, I guess, cocaine that I learned at the time. They plotted to hit a lick. And it's supposed to be in carjacking from my knowledge of it. And they jumped out my car. When they jumped out my car, me and the other guy left. Went back to my mom's house, and they later on showed up, in a vehicle. And they was delirious of what took place when they did whatever they did. Like I said, I didn't learn the knowledge of it until after the fact. Once incarcerated, I learned that they did murder somebody, kidnap, rape. And after that, it's like they stories was conflicting. And once they started making a conflict of interest with their stories, they separated everybody after we got detained. And far as that goes, that's what happened. But like I said, far as the guns, one of the guns was in my name. And I don't know if that was the actual weapon that they used, but it was 2 weapons that they had, and one of them was mine. And that's how that transpired. Far as my involvement, we never got together to plan anything. Other than that, it was like a spur of the moment thing. They jumped out my car and I left. You know, they went, did what they did and come back, and I grew knowledge of it from there. That's basically how that went.
Did y'all get some credit cards and some things maybe, and they brought back to your place and y'all kind of divvied it up and went around town using her credit cards?
Not me, sir.
Were you with anybody using them?
No, sir.
Okay. What, the gun that was used in the homicide ended up being your gun, is that correct?
Right.
And what happened to that gun?
I don't know. I mean, they never brought anything back to my place. When they came to my place, they was in a vehicle, you know. And like I say, my guns was in my car. You know, one of my guns always stayed on the back seat, and one stayed in between my console on my side of the car. Like I say, when they jumped out, I didn't grew the knowledge of it until after that my gun was used. I don't know what happened with the gun, but they retrieved a gun when they came and shook my mom's house down. They retrieved the AK-47, and they ended up arresting me, arresting my brother, arrested a lot of people, as I can remember, and questioned, you know, for as the credit card issue. My understanding of it was 2 other guys had the credit cards. I never used them. I never benefited from the credit cards. Because they left, like I say, they came by my house, and the other guy that actually did the murder was upset because of my cousin tried to make him do some things, and he was like, take him home, take him home. Now, this is the things that I've learned since I've been incarcerated about what I've read in their transcripts of what actually happened. But it was never discussed to me that the raping and all that took place.
Okay. Who threw the gun in Cross Lake?
At this time, I don't, like I say, the guns were, one of the guns we recovered from my house. I don't know what happened to the second gun.
Okay, well, it's according to the reports, your involvement was much, and according to everything that I've read, your involvement was much greater than that. When y'all, the 4 of y'all together, and you got 2 guns in the car, and 2 people jump out and run and get into a lady's car and force her by gunpoint into that car. Did you see that?
No, I was pulling off at the time. At the time that they jumped out my car, I was pulling off.
Y'all didn't talk about the carjacking or anything? You didn't ride around town looking for a car to jack, huh? No, true.
The truth is, we wasn't riding around looking to carjack. They used the term of hitting a lick or something in that nature, from my understanding. But like I said, when we was riding around town, we was going to a holiday party at the time, and Wilson and Bouye come up with the idea of pull up in a certain apartment complex. You know what I'm saying? They jumped out of the car. You know what I'm saying? We never rode around following behind nobody or none of that. But
Okay, well, you, Mr. Bagley, you paint the picture as if you was kind of like one fella told me one time he was a victim of circumference. And what he meant was circumstances. And that's what you sound like, that you were just a victim of circumstances, and you really didn't take part in planning, didn't take part in anything to do with this. And you were basically kind of appalled about it all happening. You didn't think to call the police or anything to turn them in, or to turn them in once they grabbed this lady and stole her car? You didn't involve anybody in that, correct?
I didn't involve nobody in it.
Yes. The police, I mean.
No, sir.
Okay, so why do you think you're in jail?
I mean, they used my guns. I mean, I got charged when I first come to jail. I got charged with principle to it. You know what I mean? And from my understanding of the principles is that it was planned, it was carried out. But I misinterpret the law, and that was on my behalf. You know what I mean? Something could have been reported, you know, for as my guns being stolen or whatever, but I never understood that it was taking place to where all that was going to take place.
I don't think we get far here, and I don't think we're gonna get far. Is any of the staff, I failed to recognize the staff that might be from the Southwest, which is where they are. Is there any staff in the room with you?
Yes, sir.
Cheryl Cook.
Hey,
Hi.
Cheryl, how has his demeanor and behavior been and since he's been incarcerated?
Sir, he's one of our best, I have to say. Never report, never ask for anything. I told him when he first come up here, I said, I don't ever hear from you unless he's just writing, ask a question about something. And, but I have to say, he's never been in trouble here, and he's been here since November of 20. There's not a bad report on him.
Okay.
Everybody likes him. He's working in the canteen with Miss Smith here. He's just a very likable person here. We all like him. I have to tell you the truth. He's been he's been very good here.
Okay, let's go ahead with the other panel and see what they have. Mr. Freeman?
Okay, no, Mr. Bagley, I totally understand where, my fellow member, Mr. Prater, is going. You've done great in jail. You've done 20 years on a 30-year sentence. But yet your story you're telling us is not the story that you told police. I'm not saying maybe it's not the truth now, but the story you told police, you threw the gun in the lake. You knew about the credit cards. Now, do you want to tell us anything before we vote? I'm giving you your last opportunity.
I mean, when I first got locked up, you know, I didn't, like I say, I was scared, I was young, and I was immature to the facts of the things that was taking place. For as the credit cards, like I say, I learned the credit card issue after the fact, who had the credit cards, but I never benefited from it. Not making it seem not to be honest, but like I say, that was in 2000 about the gun situation. I have one of the guns was at my mom's house, and I have, if I can recall, threw one of the guns away. And that's when I learned that something took place of the situation.
Okay, so you did throw one of the guns away?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Which gun was it?
It had to be the small caliber gun, the 380 or something, 380.
And where'd you throw it?
It was in a lake. I can't recall what was the name of the lake.
Yeah, now we get somewhere. Pete, are you getting anything else, sir?
No, I just wanted you to, I know it's been 20 years ago and you're trying to say the right things, but the right things are the truth, because that way you don't get caught in a lie.
Right, right.
You always told me anyway, but anyway, I'm glad to see that you're admitting more of your involvement in the crime.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Ms. Ledoux?
Good question.
Okay, all right, that takes care of that. Ms. Fitzgerald, welcome this morning. It's good to see you. Is there anything that I see someone else?
I just say this bag, just give this bag.
Okay. Oh, okay, then I'm sorry. Miss Bagley, I didn't see this on there. You're the daughter and you're dialed in on Zoom, I take it. And tell us what you have to say.
Good morning to everyone. I didn't want to speak. I wrote a letter.
Oh, you didn't care about speaking?
No, sir.
All right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Let him make his closing statement, later, Mr. Gerald.
Okay, yes, sir. Let's go back to Mr. Leon Bagley. Mr. Bagley, you have a chance now to make your closing statement, and then we'll go to Ms. Fitzgerald. Wait,
Well, they got you on silent.
wait just a second.
We here?
Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead and give us your statement.
I just want to say I've learned as I've grown over a period of time that my actions and my consequences and choices make a difference. I was immature, hanging out with the wrong crowd, and being incarcerated has taught me a valuable lesson. I've never had a run-in with the law enforcement, and I just want to appreciate y'all for giving me the opportunity. It started off a little rocky with me because, like I say, I've been through a lot, and it's not throwing the weight on nobody's shoulder because we all go through a lot on a daily basis. But I just, like I said, I apologize for my reactions and my responses the way they came out. It wasn't my intentions to misinterpret and not be truthful about the situation. And I just appreciate this time and opportunity to make my statement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bagley. Ms. Fitzgerald, Ms. Leon Fitzgerald, and we thank you for your work that you do, consistently giving us good reports and representing the victims. Could you give us a statement, please, ma'am?
Sure. Well, I'm very disheartened that after all these years, and it seems like the board is aware that basically what you all just heard from Mr. Bagley is a bunch of rubbish. And I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself to the other board members. I'm Leon Fitzgerald, and I work with the Caddo Parish DA's office. I'm the director of the Victim Assistance Program. And I've been here for a long time, and this was actually my case as it was going on. And so I remember it quite well because it was one of the most horrendous, heinous, heartless, worst cases that I've ever seen in my 27 plus years here. And so I think the board is mostly familiar with the facts of what happened, but in light of Mr. Bagley's statement, I would like to just hit a few of the highlights. And that is that Mr. Bagley was very much aware of what was going to happen. This was a plan. This was 4 people, including him. He was the driver. And this crew had already been to 2 locations in the city of Shreveport looking for a victim, for someone to carjack. They had sat in a Walmart parking lot, and they had sat in another, I can't remember for sure, maybe that was a Walmart too, been to 2 different places. In one occasion, they had even selected a victim, but it didn't work out because I think someone came out of the store and got in the car with her. So then Vicki McGraw is doing nothing more than driving down one of our public streets, going to her boyfriend's apartment to bake a birthday cake for her teenage daughter. And that is when this pack set their sights on her because she was driving alone. They followed her to the apartment complex, and whenever the crew got there, 2 of the others got out of the car. They carjacked her at gunpoint. They forced her back into the car. Mr. Bagley here, who knew fully well what was going on, went back to his house with Toria Scroggins, while Derek Bouye and Aaron Wilson went off with Vicki McGraw in her vehicle. She was raped and she asked to use the bathroom, and she got out on the side of the road, and as she was squatted down on the ground using the bathroom, Aaron Wilson shot her in the head. The next day she was discovered. The person who saw her thought that it was a bag of trash, but it was a human being. Her family was frantic looking for her. They had called her cell phone, and at one point a black male answered Vicki's cell phone. The crew went back to Mr. Bagley's home. He hosted the get-together after Vicki was murdered, where they all divvied up her credit cards. He admitted that he gave the murder weapon to Aaron Wilson, who was only 17 years old at the time, and he admitted that he threw the murder weapon into Cross Lake, the lake that he can't remember the name of right now, the biggest lake around the area that we live in that is our water source, and he cannot remember the name of the lake. So that is what happened on that date when Vicki McGraw was murdered and left on the side of the road like a bag of trash. Mr. Bagley was the oldest of this foursome. He was 22 years old. Two of the others involved were only teenagers. He could have been the voice of reason in this thing. He could have been the one to change his mind in the middle of the plot and say, you know, guys, this is not a good idea. It's Christmas time. We ought to be being with our families and doing Christmas things, not planning to go out and rob and kill people. So thank you for letting me tell you what really happened on that date. I would also be curious, in a previous report that I read from 2015, Mr. Bagley had not even received his GED at that time. Does he even have a GED now? What's he going to do? Where's he going to go? What is his plan? I haven't heard anything about that. So anyway, I'm not going to go on, but this family, to say that they were devastated, I am going to go on about that for just another minute. Vicki McGraw's family, these are salt of the earth, productive, working. One of them owned a business, people who were living their lives that would never consider harming another human being. Vicki was the youngest of 5 siblings. These were not people who just got together at Thanksgiving and Christmas. These people were close. They adored each other, and they could not believe that their youngest sibling had been taken from them in such a horrific way. They're elderly now. One of them's in assisted living. I've spoken with the family. So please don't think that the fact that they could not participate in person today means that they are no longer interested, because they very much are. So in closing, I would just like to say that I did not get the impression from today that Mr. Bagley is sorry that Vicki McGraw is dead. I didn't hear any remorse for Vicki or for her family. I don't believe his little half-hearted apology at the end that he didn't mean to mislead you all or misinterpret. I think that is exactly what he intended to do. And I think he's already received the benefit of a 30-year sentence, with considering the level of his participation in this. And I think that it is not excessive at all. And I'm just respectfully asking the board to hold him 30 years accountable for the sake of Vicki McGraw, all who loved her, and for the sake of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fitzgerald. Appreciate your input and the work that you do. Is the board ready to vote?
Yes, I am.
Okay, since I was the one that handled this case, my vote is to deny the parole, and I don't know. Anyway, I feel like you have not at this point taken any kind of accountability for your involvement in it, and I don't think you have the remorse that would normally accompany somebody that had done what you were involved in doing, and you were directly involved in it. You provided the gun and you helped to cover up the crime and you used some of the fruits of the crime. So my vote is to deny.
Mr. Bagley, I'm glad to see that you have taken victim awareness and that you have good conduct in the facility. That speaks well of you. However, I echo Mr. Gerald and my colleague, and one of the notes I wrote was he is not accepting responsibility. Sir, regardless of how minimal you believe your conduct was involved in this crime, you have to accept some responsibility for what happened. And without that remorse, at this point, my vote is to deny.
Okay, Mr. Bagley, I see things totally different. You've done 20 years, you've done great. You've had no disciplinary problems, you caused no problem, but I'm only one vote. My vote would have been to grant with no contact with the victim. But keep trying, man. You're doing a good job in my vote.
Okay, that will conclude this hearing from Southwest. The time is 9:30 a.m. That concludes our hearing with the denial.
I told you that'd be tough.
Already knew it. You know what I'm saying? Because they got two different versions of, you know what I'm saying, with that. So how could I tell y'all?
Wow. All I can say is, well, to start is thank goodness for the DA. And this is why it's so important for a DA to show up, because had she not shown up, I might have been, like, hey, he's 20 years. He really didn't know what was going on. He wasn't involved in it that much. And I might have gone, you saw the sheriff, and I thought the parole board was working as pretty like a good team. You had Mr. Freeman that was like getting him to say the truth. And then it comes out, well, yeah, he threw the gun away, but he knew nothing about it. But then Mr. Freeman shocks me by saying, "Oh, grant," which, I mean, the whole, what they asked for at these parole hearings is that they take accountability, that they show remorse, that they speak the truth, and he really did none of that. It was almost as if I'm just like, why is he like, what, why 20 years for stealing a car? And then you find out, no, this wasn't, I mean, this was just a nightmare. Like the DA said, one of the worst cases, unbelievable. And I just don't get it. There really was no remorse. I mean, I think probably in his mind, he might think of himself as a victim. I mean, he didn't even try to fake it. But he's got another 10 years, but his good time date's coming up, I think. So it's not even that long. Let's go to the facts of the case. December 23rd, 2000. Thank you, Richard, for providing this. And Richard gave a couple other links, which was like old newspapers and stuff, but that was when the crime first happened. But I think this is, I can include those links if you want to look at it. So she was 48. She planned to spend the evening having dinner with her boyfriend at Southern Oak apartment complex. She had been out shopping, but had completed her errands and was on her way back that evening. She was alone in her SUV. 4 young men, including Aaron, who was age 17 at the time of the offense, were driving around in this area at the same time. The men intended to rob and or carjack the victim that night. They observed that Miss McGraw was alone in her vehicle and followed her into the apartment complex parking lot. Among them, they carried 2 firearms, a Lorson 380 pistol and a Norino Mac 90 70 semi-automatic rifle. It's funny, he referred to it as the AK-47. That's not. The state allowed to plead second-degree murder in exchange for testimony testifying in the penalty phase of the trial. A copy of the Russian. Oh, okay. It is a copy of a Russian AK-47 rifle. I did not know that. As Miss McGraw parked, Bagley, who was driving, pulled in behind her. The defendant and 21-year-old Derek got out of the vehicle, displaying the weapons, and confronted Miss McGraw. Wilson and Boya forced Miss McGraw back into the driver's seat of her vehicle. Meanwhile, Bagley and Scrottons left the scene in their car. Wilson got into the backseat of the SUV, and they got into the front passenger seat. Then they forced her to drive up automated teller machine, where she withdrew money and surrendered it to the men. She then, Boya then got into the driver's seat. They put gas in the SUV and decided to drive into rural Cato Parish, to an area near his girlfriend's parents lived. As they drove out of town, Wilson forced Mr. McGraw, now in the back of the vehicle, to submit to oral, vaginal, and also that. The trauma of the incident caused Ms. McGraw to lose control of her bowels as she defecated on the back seat of her vehicle. She pleaded with the men to stop, to allow her to use the bathroom. So they stopped the SUV in a remote stretch of Louisiana highway. This is just terrible. Ms. McGraw got out of the passenger side door of the two-door vehicle and stayed on the side of the vehicle. As Ms. McGraw relieved herself beside the vehicle, the defendant shot her in the top of the head. They left her body there on the side of the road and fled the scene. The SUV, during the ride, evidently discharged a Mac 90 and shot a hole through the roof of the SUV. A passerby found her partially nude body in the morning of the murder. Investigated. It's just really, it's just, I love that the DA was there. You could tell the DA took it so personally, and man, what a mic drop. What a mic drop moment. And that's the point. When you see, I get that he wasn't in the car with them. I get that he didn't pull the trigger. He may have had no idea that they were going to do this. But he could have came into the parole hearing and said all the right things and gotten paroled, and he didn't do that. After he was apprehended, Wilson came into Shreveport Police Department headquarters using a false name. Wilson attempted to give Boya and himself an alibi. GPS investigators determined that Wilson was not who he claimed to be. He used a name. He went into the police department to give an alias. Wow, these are smart guys. Thereafter, he gave a statement as CPSO officer. In the statement, Wilson admitted to kidnapping, robbery, and sexual assault, with an exception to the anal he denied. He further admitted that he was the person who shot Miss McGraw. Wilson told investigators that he only intended to frighten Miss McGraw with the gunshot and fire the shot only because he said, "Do her, because she seen our face, do her." He described the details of the shooting to the investigators. However, he claimed they intended to fire the gun over the victim's head, closing his eyes as he squeezed the trigger. Yes, of course you did. All of a sudden, you became this humane, compassionate human being. Wilson was charged with the first degree, and the state sought the death penalty. The matter proceeded to trial by jury of August 5th, 2002. Did he get the death penalty? Well, Richard did share a link about it, but I didn't see. Wilson's trial strategy aimed at avoiding conviction for first-degree murder. He testified and admitted to participating in the kidnapping, robbery, and sexual assault, but denied that he had the specific intent to kill or inflict great bodily harm. Indeed, at the trial, Wilson denied that he was the person who shot Miss McGraw. The defendant testified that he lied to police about being the shooter because he was afraid of retaliation from Wilson's mother if he told the truth. Wilson claimed that Boya shot Miss McGraw while still sitting in the SUV. Wilson admitted that he was outside the truck and standing near the victim when she was killed. She was squatting close to the truck with her back to him, and he said he was not watching when Boya fired the fatal shot. Right about 2-3 minutes after she got out, I'm standing there, turning the bottle up, and the second time I bring it down, I hear a click, and when that click, you hear boom. I turned around and I jumped and I said, "Man, what's up, bro? What just happened?" He say, "Man, I had to do it, bro. She seen our face." I said, "Man, take me home, bro. Take me home." He said, man, come on, man. I know you ain't going to act like no, basically, excuse my language. Take me. Come on, get in, homeboy. Photos of the crime scene in the vehicle and the final position of Miss McGraw's body were introduced into the evidence and shown to the jury. Dr. Stephen Cogswell, deputy coroner, Frigida Parish, testified that the entrance wound was on the left, at the left back of Miss McGraw's head, and the bullet path was downward. I mean, straight up execution style, while she's relieving herself after they did what they did to her. It's just insane. I mean, it's just brutal. I'm not reading this because it's just too brutal. How does someone do this at this age? How does someone do this? It's like, what causes someone to just do that? I'll put the link in the description. I love this DA. I think we've seen her once or twice before, but this was great. Love her accent. I love her, like her, she has like a certain kind of energy. And she says programs, which is just great. Yeah, this is long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Of course, the sentence was affirmed. Let's see. Maybe there's something. In this instant case, the defendant was saved from the execution only by fortuitous for him happenstances. 18th birthday remained a little more than a month away when he kidnapped, robbed, brutally sexually assaulted. So he didn't get it because he wasn't 18 yet. Was imposing the death sentence on the defendant. The trial court made these comments, which are opposite in concerning whether the defendant's life sentence is appropriate. But now my comments to you before I sentence you, this is the judge. I probably heard as much as anyone else from your statements before this court, and I can't understand why this happened. I can't imagine what you were thinking, what you were feeling, or what possessed you to do what you did. I was not at all, I think as others, impressed with your statement before the court. I don't think you showed any remorse. I don't think you are apologetic. I don't think you have any sorrow whatsoever for what you did to the victim and the victim's family. I think somewhere you missed the boat. You come from a good family. You've been given opportunities that many people don't get or haven't gotten and probably will not get. And as your attorneys presented to the jury, there were just certain mitigating factors that you could think of that will lead this court to, specifically the jury, to spare your life for what you did. I can tell you, you didn't impress me, and I feel comfortable in saying you did not impress the jury, that you were sorry, that you had any regrets or remorse for your actions, because there's no way we could find any excuses. I'm taking the time because this bothers me to have to do what I'm about to do. This is not part of the job that I really cared to participate in when I took the oath to uphold the law and fulfill the responsibilities of the honorable position. I never wanted to get to this point, and I don't like it. But what you did was so wrong, so inhumane, so terrible that I think the punishment fits the crime. I know you're standing before this court not caring what I'm saying. I could have come in, pronounced a sentence, and that could have been the end of it. But I think you need to, at some point, say to your lawyers, as I've already said, to thank them for at least giving you your day before the court. I don't think there's anything you could ever say to the victim's family that would believe that you are sorry. There's nothing you could tell this court to make this court believe you are sorry. The jury and the trial court had the best opportunity to observe this defendant, and it was their opinion that a sentence of death was appropriate for this defendant. Given the mindless brutality of this incident, the life without the benefit of sentence is not grossly disproportionate to the crime. This assignment of error is without merit. Conclusion: for this reason, stated here and above, the conviction and sentence of the defendants are confirmed. What a speech, huh? I love when judges give those mic drops. Now, again, it's my understanding that because he wasn't yet 18, it was overturned, so he's facing life in prison. And who knows with Louisiana, with just the system the way it is, maybe we'll see him on a commutation one day. Thank you, Richard, for the info. And with that, we'll move to the next hearing.
80, he was classified as a second felony offender. He had a parole eligibility date of November the 14th, 2015. He is not eligible for good time. He has a full-term date of November the 15th of 2025. He is currently serving a 20-year sentence on the charge of forcible rape, having been sentenced or resentenced on October the 21st of 2008. Mr. Walker, is all of that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Walker, your case has been assigned to Ms. Pearl Wise. Ms. Wise will begin our interview process. Would you please answer any questions she may have?
Yes, sir.
Wise?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
That's all right.
Is this your first parole hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good, good. Call out for the record how long you've served on this charge.
16 years, 7 months,
16 years and 7 months. And how old are you today?
42.
42. I see you haven't taken any programs. Tell me about that.
Ma'am,
You haven't taken any programs, have you? What programs have you taken?
I've taken a living in balance, cage raging, thanking for a change. NAA.
Okay.
I got some motivation. I got motivational speaker certificates.
What now?
Motivational speaker, like so, like if I was to like go out in the world and I can be able to go somewhere and present myself to talk to people about positive things, you know, or like a good
Oh, you
speaker.
got a motivational speaker certification.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I never heard of that. Okay, good.
Character counts, like I participate in all kind of programming units, programs where we speak to guys to better themselves, you know what I'm saying, to keep them on a positive track.
Okay, so you were part of the speaker bureau there, you helped?
Yes, ma'am. When I was at Winfield Correctional.
Oh, okay, that was at Winfield.
Yes,
Now, what about the sex offender treatment program?
They didn't recommend it to me in my sentence, but I haven't been in it, and I don't know why. I tried, but I was prolonged. I said I was told I was on a waiting list, so they say.
Oh, good, but good. So you have tried to get in it?
Yes, ma'am, numerous of times.
Numerous of times. Okay, good. So let's talk about the crime again. It's very complicated because that young lady was your cousin, right?
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
First cousin?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's speak to that. Go ahead. What was going on with you?
I was stupid. I was under the influence of alcohol and marijuana. I was impaired, and I got outside my character, which wasn't me, but I got outside my character to do things that was not permissible, and it happened. And I can't make no excuses as to what happened because it did happen. I was sentenced for the crime, but I'm sorry that it happened. And since the incident, I've spoken with the victim. You know, she's my cousin. I love her. She still loves me. You know what I'm saying? And I asked for forgiveness, and since she'll accept my apology with open arms. You know, I come from a family of forgiveness, and we just spoke about it. And I told her I was sorry for it, and she told me don't worry about it, just be cool and just take it one day at a time with her and with me, and just do the time and come home. And so that's
that's good. That's good. That confirms her statement when our staff reached out to her.
Right.
That confirms our statement. She's not against you or anything. She's neutral on that. It's whatever the board decides. It's
Yes,
okay. And you are blessed to be a part of a forgiving family. You really are. We don't get that very often.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you honestly say that this was your first attempt at this kind of activity?
That's my first and last attempt.
That's statistically speaking, that's rare that will be your first attempt, but I'm gonna leave that there.
Yes, ma'am.
So why were you sleeping on somebody's couch anyway? What was your life situation like?
I was in my mom's house. They had my uncle now, which is her dad. They all come down from Texas to visit us, and we all was at the gathering. And I was in my mom's house, and I come in late. You know, impaired, under the influence of alcohol, and I just crashed out of there instead of going home to keep from driving on the road and get a DWI or something. You know, so I just
You weren't living with your mom at that time. You weren't living with
no, ma'am. I was staying
your
out.
own place.
Yes, ma'am.
And well, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. All right, Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Walker?
Yes, ma'am. I spoke to Mr. Walker, just on last week. Mr. Walker currently works as a barber here at Allen Correctional Center. He does pretty good with that. His disciplinary record is pretty good. That last fight he had, which is approximately 2 years ago, as far as it had been identified as a cigarette. But on the same, ma'am.
So that contraband was a cigarette.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I meant to ask him that. Thank you.
On another note, my main concern is though, that I really believe he needs some type of sex offender treatment. I really do.
Thank you, Warden. Thank you. That's all I had, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, is there anything you'd like to say before the board votes?
I thank God for this day to be able to come before y'all and get a chance to, you know, plead my case. It's like a testimony to me instead of a parole hearing, because I get to share myself with you guys and, you know, show my remorse, because I am sorry to the victim. Not only have I hurt myself, put myself in here, but I hurt my family as well, because that was taken from them. And there was, you know, I'm not making no excuses. Like I said, I'm not making no excuses for being here, because what was done. I hated it was done, but it was done. And I just asked the board to have mercy upon me and to give me a chance in society, because I have a lot going. I have kids that need me. I want to be a father to my kids, son to my mom, and, you know, a sibling to my brother to my siblings. A brother to my sibling, because they need me out there too. And I was taking care of my mom. She's getting up in age. She's 63 years old. And I feel as though that, you know, I was a baby boy, you know, taken from her, took a toll on her, you know. And I thank God for keeping her here with me this long. It's almost 17 years I've been gone, you know. And like I say, they all forgive me. I've been forgiven, first by God, then by them, then by the victim, you know. So I just ask that y'all forgive me and just have mercy upon me and just give me a chance.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. We appreciate your comments. Pamela?
Yes, yes. Mr. Walker, you presented yourself very well today. You did prepare for this day.
Yes,
you did everything you could do to be successful today. And I just want to commend on. However, because of the lack of the sex offender treatment program, as well as some type of long-term substance abuse treatment, I can't vote for you today. Now, I am going to make a recommendation that you get moved to where you can get the sex offender treatment and some substance abuse treatment, and reapply after you complete those. Reapply once you're eligible. Just keep your head up, keep doing the right things day after day. That is my vote.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Mr. Freeman?
I concur with Ms. Wise. I think you need to have that sex offender treatment. Once you get that, I would be willing to look at your case more closely.
Thank you, Freeman. Mr. Walker, you've done well. You're well-spoken. I think you've accepted responsibility for what you did. You indicated to us it was a one-time thing. Your record suggests that that's probably true. But it is critical that you get that sex offender treatment program so you don't find yourself in another situation like that either. So I concur with my colleague's recommendation. I would deny it today, but we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that you get into that sex offender program. Once you complete that program, reapply, and you likely get a different result. But today, the vote has been denied. So good luck to you.
So y'all have a good day.
Warden, thank you so much for your help.
I don't have any information to unpack this case with, but it's it's a classic Miss Wise interview, so we don't get any information. It's pretty useless. But yeah, I don't want to get a DUI, so instead I went home and sexually assaulted my first cousin. And he got 20 years. And when you get 20 years in Louisiana, it's bad. But I was drunk and high. Wow. I mean, every time I get drunk and high, I just want to go and do that. It's just ridiculous. They denied him because he didn't have his programs. This hearing took place in 2022, July 2022. So we're heading on about close to 2 years from that hearing. We may see him sometime soon. He got a 20-year sentence. And we see him again. I'll pull up the parole hearing here. I'll put it in a playlist of return of. That's where I do connection hearings. And I have nothing else to add. I really don't. It's just. There are people that force themselves on people that should be, and then there are people that do it to their family members, and it's just beyond understanding. With that, we'll move to the next hearing.
Good morning.
Morning.
Parole, we are reconvening at 9:39 a.m. on June 6, 2024. We're at the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison. I'd like the officer, sir, would you introduce yourself for the record?
I'm Captain Miles, Chief of Intake.
All right, thank you, Captain Miles, for accommodating us today.
Yes, ma'am.
Before us, Joshua Singleton. Mr. Singleton, good morning. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
Joshua Singleton, 752229.
My name is Cheryl Renatza. Seated to my left is Mrs. Singleton. To my right is Mrs. Ledoux. We are your parole panel this morning. We're here for a revocation decision. We're going to put do you have some paperwork there with you? Do you have a parole revocation questionnaire?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that your signature down at the bottom of that page?
Yes, ma'am.
So based on the information you provided in that questionnaire, it was determined you're not eligible for an appointed lawyer. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're ready to proceed this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Let me acknowledge that we have your mother, Ms. Tony Singleton, your girlfriend, Ashley Norwood, both who want to speak on your behalf, and we're going to ask them to do so once we finish our questions.
Yes, ma'am.
First, I'm going to read the violations, the allegations, and you'll enter a plea of guilty or not guilty. Then we'll have some questions for you.
Yes,
So you're accused of violating condition number 4 of your parole conditions. It reads, you were arrested by the Baton Rouge Police Department December 19, 2023 for battery of a dating partner, child endangerment. You were billed for this arrest under DC-24-00588. This bill was dismissed on April 23rd, 2024 per the victim's request, but there is no evidence to state that the incident did not occur or is any different from the police report. The police report also alleges visible injuries were done to the victim in the form of a busted lip. The victim of the alleged offense also contacted the Baton Rouge Police Department twice previously, alleging continuing domestic violence behaviors toward her during your current period of supervision. So, Mr. Singleton, how do you plead to violate condition number 4?
Guilty.
Okay, your case has been assigned to Mrs. Ledoux. Would you answer her questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Mr. Singleton. Just for the record, are you a third-class offender?
A third-class offender? I don't think so.
Okay. Your master prison record reflects that you're a third-class offender. Have you been on supervision previously?
Parole? No,
Yes.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
So, Mr. Singleton, you had actually two instances where police were called. There was one that it was only a police record that you went to an ex-girlfriend's house and wanted to stay there because she said you knew that you were going to be in trouble for the domestic abuse battery. Do you recall that incident?
No, that incident, that's not true.
Okay, so did you go to Texas to pick up your girlfriend whenever she went to Texas with her family?
No, ma'am.
So I find you.
I never been out the state since I've been released.
So you did not have a problem when you had the domestic abuse battery charge. Did you feel like you were going to go back to prison?
So, can you repeat the question?
When you had that domestic abuse battery charge filed against you prior to it being dropped, did you think you were going to go back to prison?
I mean, I didn't know of the charge before I was arrested. I didn't know, that I was charged with that before, the arrest. But I mean, after they told me that I had a warrant, I knew I was going back to jail. After I was told about the warrant.
Who told you about the warrant?
My lawyer.
Your guardian?
My lawyer.
Lawyer, okay. So were you in custody at that time when your lawyer told you you had a warrant?
No, my lawyer was getting ready to make I forgot what they called it, but they was trying to get in touch with someone so they can turn me in with my lawyer being present.
So why would they have a warrant for you if there was no evidence that you did anything?
A warrant, I mean, the police said the police was called, so I guess that's why they had the warrant.
So why was the police called, you think?
Due to, I can't say why, but
Who called the police?
I guess Miss Norwood.
And why would she call the police if nothing happened?
Well, nothing physically happened, but we did have an argument.
Well, I have arguments. I don't call the police. I think that the police was
Well,
called.
I feel just because I think she knew that I was on parole, that's why she called the police. Because she knew that I probably would get back, I would get in more trouble by her or calling the police and I'm going back to jail by me being on parole.
So you're. Okay. I'll listen to what everybody has to say. Do you have any questions?
Sir, I'm just reading from the statement that that you went to an ex-girlfriend's house because you said you needed a place to stay, and that the second police report details how the subject was staying with an ex-girlfriend, not the address of record. And then 2 weeks later that he began kicking on the door when she asked him to wake up. The subject reportedly fled from the address after she called because he was aware of the domestic abuse warrant out for him. The subject was then arrested following a short standoff on 12/19/23 at the third address, which was not his address of record. So what happened? Was there a standoff? Were you at a different address? Is that returning?
A standoff is considered me being with a firearm towards, the police. That's a standoff. I never brandished the firearm, never possessed the firearm, never.
You just refused to come out.
I had no access. No, I came outside. When they acknowledged and said who they was, I contacted my lawyer first.
Okay.
And the lawyer told me that it's best for me to go outside, and I went outside and I turned myself in.
That may account for the word short standoff, that it was a short, in their eyes, a standoff, because police on the other side of the door, they don't know if you're getting a gun or if you have a gun.
Yeah, I never.
Attorney at the time, that's what you were saying, just getting legal advice, and then you went.
That's the only thing I did. I never had a standoff. It never was a standoff. I never brandished a firearm. They never got a firearm from me or off of me.
Okay,
in
but
the presence of the house.
Seems like there was a lot of problems with all this domestic violence and back and forth between girlfriends and stuff. So I don't have any further questions.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Singleton. You mentioned your lawyer a few times this morning. Did you expect a lawyer to be present for this procedure?
No, I knew my lawyer wouldn't be present for this. No,
Okay. So you're ready to continue on without your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Because that attorney that you had you hired him, right?
Can you repeat the question?
When you called, you mentioned that you called and came to whatever was going on to the house. You had hired that attorney, right?
Yeah, they represented me for
okay.
This case.
Something. I got it. Okay. So we're going to hear from the folks who have joined us today. First, we'd like to hear from your mother, Ms. Singleton.
Good morning.
Morning. Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm here for support of my son. I just want to say, like, if this is resolved today and he is released, the goal is to get him out of Louisiana and to get him to Houston, where I stay. The judge has granted that he can have out-of-state parole and have his parole transferred to Houston, where I'm living. I do know that the condition with the charges being dismissed, since they have been dismissed, that he has to take a class that's a 6 months class. So the goal is to get all of that set up, get him enrolled in the class, get everything taken care of, and get him transitioned from Louisiana to Houston. I've listened to some of the things that were said about the ex-girlfriend and going to her house and pounding on the door and stuff. And I'm familiar with that young lady, and I have like text messages and things on my phone from the young lady about things that she said she was gonna do out of spite because she knew his situation, and she was mad because he was no longer in a relationship with her and now currently in a relationship with Ms. Norwood. So I think that she was calling the police and saying things out of spite in order to get him locked up and in trouble. Which I don't think is fair, but we have people that react and do things because they feel that their feelings are hurt or someone has wronged them. That's beyond any of our control. But my goal really is to get my son out of Louisiana, get him to Houston, give him a fresh start, help him gain meaningful employment, complete his parole, complete his classes, and go on to be a productive citizen. That is my overall goal.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for your support of him. Could we hear from Ms. Norwood?
Good morning. I just want to say that I'm here in support of Joshua. A lot of things did transpire that night, and that young lady that you all are speaking on, I have had several incidents with her, involving her, just her and I personally, because Josh doesn't typically involve himself in that. And at that time, I was really going through a lot personally. And I had found out some things about them possibly messing around. And at that moment, the night that I called the cops, that was mainly out of spite because I felt a type of way about me hearing things about him and the ex-girlfriend. So I did take advantage of his situation in that moment. And I regret that I never wanted Josh to go to jail or any of this to happen. I'm in support of him, moving and changing his people, place, and things and bettering himself. And I regret my part on falsely, taking things as far as I did when I didn't have the right to do that. despite me feeling a type of way about the ex-girlfriend and what I had heard. I had no proof of, them talking or anything. But like I said, prior to that, I, have had some encounters with her. So it was just a lot going on, and I have personally sought therapy for, the things that I feel like I was going through at that moment, and it really had nothing to do with Joshua because he had just come home. So I was just taking my anger out and acting off of emotions that particular day or that time.
Did you go to the hospital for injuries?
Yes, I did, because like I told the DA, I did have an injury to my mouth due to me the day that that incident happened. Joshua had separated himself from me that entire day. So I was already texting him, feeling a type of way. And then when he finally did come back around, I was still angry at the moment. And in the midst of me leaving and things like that, we were arguing, and I pushed him, and he was trying to, move me out of the way. And I was at the time staying with him. So I had all my things in his room. I ended up tripping over something, and that's how I got the injury on my mouth. I hit the side of the bed.
And you were so angry that you got your 6-year-old dog up and walked out to leave that residence over just an argument.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Norwood. We appreciate your input. Joshua, is there anything else you'd like to say to us?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I want to say, like, I don't personally have anything against females at all. I was raised around females my whole life between my mom, her mother, and her sisters. So I respect women. This domestic thing, that's not me. That's not my motive vendetta. Like, I don't have anything against women. That's my pride and joy. I love my girlfriend to death. I love my mother to death. I love my grandparents. I love my grandmother, her sisters. And like I said, a lot of people do see things in me that I don't see. And I do feel like I was taken advantage of in this situation. But that's all I want to say. Thank you.
All right. I think we are prepared to vote. Mrs. Ledoux.
Mr. Singleton, based on police reports and all the notes that I have on this, without any conflicting evidence other than statement, my vote today is to revoke you. I find that there's a preponderance of evidence that a physical altercation took place, and my vote is to revoke.
Mrs. Stapleton.
I concur, and I do hope that there is a domestic violence course that you can take, whatever jail you're at, because you need it, and it'll do you good. So I concur with Ms. Ledoux.
And my vote is the same, Mr. Singleton, to revoke and ask that you take advantage of any program opportunity that you can while you're there. So today, sir, your parole's being revoked. Good luck to you, sir.
So I have a question.
What is that?
Do I get all my credit as far as I've been in jail for 6 months and I have 3 months free credit? I'm supposed to have 9 months credit.
Right. I can't answer that. It's a DOC question because we don't calculate the time. So your classification there could probably help you get in touch with them. And I do want to let you know that you need to be, if your intention is to go to Houston, you need to start now on the Interstate Compact Agreement. It's this board that allows you to go to out of state, not the judge. So start working.
Another thing is with the credit, is like no way that I can get no one to, I know that's hard. No one's going to be able to help me get that credit because I don't go to court anymore. Usually when you get court credit, they say it in court and it's on the record as far as like they're giving you that credit. So
it's actually like a matter of law as far as your street credit and your earned compliance credit. So The DOC calculates that for you. So after today's proceeding, that's what they will do. They'll calculate your time.
But I done seen a
Get
lot
a
of
note,
people.
Master Prison Record. You will. We'll make a note that you're inquiring.
Yeah, I'm just saying because I see a lot of people go through DOC and they don't
Right.
get their
I
credit.
understand, and we're gonna make a note that you're asking about it. That concludes business, I believe. Does that conclude our business? Oh, I'm sorry, we have one more to East Baton Rouge.
Well, this 3-panel member female board, I really do like watching them together, especially for these revocation hearings. They just don't take any of the BS, and they've got quite storied backgrounds. If you're not familiar with their bios, I have gone through them before. Let me know if you want me to go through them again. We're going to go over some of those laws about the good time. If you're curious about that, I've been curious, and I've seen, he was curious because he had 6 months that he's been sitting in jail waiting for his revocation hearing. Normally, you'd be seen much faster, but because the new governor was elected and because they were doing these special death row commutation hearings, and they had the new board, a lot of his revocation hearings were kicked down the road again and again. So that's why he had to wait so long. And I don't know how much time he's backing. But 6 months is quite a long time if you're not going to get the good time for it. And it's not clear. I have seen and read or where you do not get good time when you're waiting between your revocation hearing and between you're finally revoked. And I've also seen where you do. So I think it's kind of up in the air. But we have seen attorneys come on, or we have seen folks revoke themselves because they said that they just didn't have that much time left and didn't want to wait in jail for the revocation hearing. So it's still unclear to me.